Here we are, part 3, or stage 3, or what it was, phase 3 of the working Pip-boy. And I'm not telling you to do any of this stuff. In fact, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it at all. Don't try this at home. But I'm going to show how I prepared my Blackberry, what apps I installed, how I disassembled it to make a working Pip-boy 2000. Better stay tuned. This is your Geek Fix. I've actually released part of this video before, but I thought just to keep things tight and organized, I'll put it all in here as well. These Blackberries were not cheap, although I told Waze that I was able to buy some that were, you know, not in perfect condition by any means. But now, thanks to BlackBerry having shut down their servers, these phones are pretty easy to get at a really low price. In fact, this one right here was $20, and you can get them between $20 and about $35 is what I've been seeing them. And there's one big reason for that, and that is that the BlackBerry servers have been shut down. And so for that reason, setting up your phone, if you're starting from scratch, is now impossible. What happens is you get to this Wi-Fi connection screen or data connection screen and can't get past it. And so if you go on eBay right now, you're going to find that there's all these Blackberry Passports that they say are not working or that you're buying for parts, but when you read the description it says that they can't get past this screen. And so for that reason they're selling them for cheap because they think that they can't set them up. But there is a workaround. There is a way to still set this up without the Blackberry servers. And the way to do it is so bizarre. Like, everybody on all the forums has been talking about it now since at least the beginning of the year, that whoever came up with this, so what made them even think to try it is interesting. So basically, when you first get in, you might start with this screen. So if you were to start from absolute scratch, the first thing you have to do is you have to go through your agreements, and then it'll bring you to this screen. Most of the newer Blackberries that I bought, since this has occurred, seem to be stuck on this screen or the next one, which looks like this right here. It says connect to Wi-Fi. And what you have to do is, first off, do not connect to Wi-Fi. If you do, you might ruin your chance of being able to set this up. So don't connect to Wi-Fi on that screen. If you have made that mistake, I'll tell you a possible workaround on that as well. But I will say it's going to be a lot easier if you don't set up any Wi-Fi. The next step that we're going to be doing involves putting this into an access mode. So basically, the way that we're going to be doing that is putting it into the text-to-speech by clicking this power button 3 times really quickly. 1, 2, 3, just like that. And then just wait for a second.
Turn on screen reader.
So it says turn on screen reader.
The BlackBerry screen reader that assists people with vision impairments. Double tap with 2 fingers to turn on the screen reader and open the screen reader help.
So we're going to use both fingers to tap, double tapping, to turn it on. Now that the screen reader's on, I'm going to now single click that skip button.
Skip button.
Then double click it.
To activate. BlackBerry ID. With a BlackBerry ID, you can access BlackBerry products.
Now we're going to be waiting for the skip statement, at which time I'm going to double click the screen.
World and the anti-theft feature in BlackBerry Protect, designed to prevent anyone from setting up your device without knowing your BlackBerry ID. Sign in. Create account. Learn more about BlackBerry ID. Previous. Skip.
I double clicked when it said skip. Now, yes, I do. So I'll tap it once and then double click it.
Tap to activate BlackBerry ID.
And then I'm just going to click skip. Then I'm going to click enable. I've got to leave the screen reader on, even for this part.
Regional update.
I'm going to click next.
Customizing for your region. Next button, double tap to activate.
Now it's doing the software update. This can take a few minutes. What's interesting about this is it doesn't have to connect to the internet to complete this. So it's checking for updates. It won't see anything and it won't connect. And then I'll just come back and say it must be up to date. Now,
touch the screen to set a point of record.
it says software. I could set up the Wi-Fi. I'm not going to do that still. I'm going to swipe left to skip. But first I'm going to disable the screen reader by triple clicking this.
Screen reader off.
And then I'm going to just say swipe left. Whoops, like so. And then click OK. And now what it's going to do is it's going to go into our demo mode to teach you how to use everything from the trackpads and the screen. And just like that, I'm now officially inside my phone. So now I can start setting up apps and making it look the way I want to for my Pip-boy. Now what do you do if you did accidentally log into your Wi-Fi? Or just plain old, when you try to do what I did, instead of it continuing to read, it does nothing when you get to that connect to Wi-Fi page. So it doesn't give me my option for being able to do the skip button. All I can do is go backward or set up my internet. Well, we have to do a hard reset, which is a couple ways to try that. One is you're pushing both the volume up and down buttons, you hold them, and it will restart the phone. Another one is to hold the up button and the power button, or trying the down button and the power button and seeing if that also restores the phone. Typically though, it just reboots it. It doesn't really put it into that factory reset. One of the first things you're going to need to do is to remove this top piece up here. So as you can see right here, I just take this part, and one way or another, I didn't have a problem just now clipping underneath it with my fingernail, and you just pull it off. Woo! That really flew off. As you can see, the clips are actually here at the bottom, so if you put it back on, putting it on like this, and then pushing it on from there. But for right now, we're removing it, and the main reason why we're removing it is because we need access to the SD card. I do not recommend putting in a SIM card. Don't do it. It won't benefit you for multiple reasons, but yeah, I'm leaving out my SIM card, and I'm opening up that SD card because that's how I'm going to load, my information. So I put everything I'm going to be talking about already on this SD card. One of the first things you're going to need to do is to go into Pictures, which is the app that is already on your BlackBerry. That's where I went to be able to get a hold of different pictures that I have that I could use for my startup screens. I'm going to use one that's fairly blank. This is just kind of the general screen look for the Pip-boy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Save As or Set As. And then I want to do Wallpaper. And this is what I'm going to use as my general wallpaper. So I'm going to click Done, and it will ask me, well, what do I want to use it as? I'm going to use this for my home screen, and I click OK. Perfect. Now, I think, I said before I really like Pitfall. I'm going to pick Grognak in this point, and I'm going to select that one to set. Again, selecting Wallpaper, Done, and I'm going to set that for my lock screen. Okay. So now, I'm going to go ahead and close that. As you can see, now I have this background for my apps. It makes it a lot easier to see those apps. And yet, when I turn off the phone, turn it back on, there's my lock screen that has Grognak on it. And I swipe up. It's kind of cool the way that it works. Look at how cool that looks. At any rate. So we've taken care of our backgrounds. That's how we do that. The next thing I want to do is I have this empty screen, which I'm going to leave empty for the most part, or you can choose to. My second screen is where I'm going to be putting a lot of my apps. So I need to move some of the ones that it comes with, and I want to delete some that I don't really need. Be careful what you delete. Some things you can, some things you cannot. So for example, if I hold this down for a second, right? You'll see that these are flashing. None of them has a little delete button. Some of them do. So like if I want to get rid of YouTube, I can. Or if I want to get rid of my calculator, I could. I just click that little trash. It will uninstall them. But some of them I really like. I actually like this compass, for example. Look at that. Isn't that great? I think I'm going to keep that. But I want to be able to load it with some of my own apps that make the Pip-boy work and look really good. Now, here's where a decision needs to be made. If you saw my second video, you saw where I had some problems with the Google Play Store. So some apps you can put on here, they work fine. I've been able to install, for example, in the past, a couple things that I needed the Google Play Store. For example, Fallout Shelter or Hitman. But then there's a lot that don't require it. So if you're not wanting to mess with it, don't. Because later on I did have an error that occurred. It's a pretty common Android error that popped up. And because it was on a Blackberry, literally there was nothing I could do in the end. No matter what fix I tried to follow online, I actually had to reset the whole thing. And once we disassemble this, that makes it much more difficult to do. A good reason for saving the keyboard regardless, so that you can go back and make some changes if you need to. But for the most part, I'd say unless you really want to install those apps, which I'll show you how to do, I just leave the Google Play stuff off. But you might already be aware that the Blackberry can run APKs for the most part. It's Android based and works with Android 10, and a lot of the older APKs will work on Blackberry 10. But if you want it to work with the Google Play Store, if you want to be able to play a lot of the newer things, or like I said, Fallout Shelter, some other apps that aren't really designed for it, and they'll say, nope, this isn't compatible at all, but I've been able to make it work great. Actually runs fantastic. Both the games that I really wanted to install and needed this for, I was able to install. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Also, if you're looking at wanting to run certain apps to be able to do keyboard fixes or things like that, this is also the way to do it. Now, I didn't come up with this fix. This is really something from the Blackberry forums, what they call Crackberry, that I gained a long time ago. I've done it for the last 2 years and it's worked consistently every time. And I will link the apps that you're going to need to be able to make this happen. Again, this is what I would have already put on our SD card. Go to your file manager and make sure that you're selecting on the far left side in the bottom corner is where you can select the media card. I need to go to my media card first, and I have a Google file that I created that has all those downloads already in it on my SD card. First part we have to do is convince the Blackberry and Google that we're attaching to the mobile network. So we're going to go to Cobalt's mobile network, which is this one right here, and we're going to install that one. You may have to click OK on some of these. Next, we'll go into the Google accounts and install that. This is how we'll be able to tie my Google account to a verified Blackberry device. Now we're ready to install our Google Play Store app, which in here is referred to as Android Vending APK. Now we're going to install the Google Games APK, which even if you're not planning on installing Android games, I would say to have it in there because it seems like it's the only real reason that we're even installing any of this. Now Google Plus has this whitelist to prevent untrusted domains or certain things from being able to connect or to be able to use their network. And so we're going to install the Google whitelist next. Next, we're going to install the Google Settings app. Now we're going to install the Blackberry Google ID, which is what tells my Blackberry that I have set it up, that everything's official and they can share information, and then hook it up to the Google account. So once we've installed that, we're going to click that open button in the top right corner. And this is where you'll get prompted on everything to do from here as far as setting it up. I'm not going to be able to show some of this because it's my own Google ID. Also, it'll depend. If you already have a Google account, you'll want to tie it to that. If you don't have one, you'll need to set one up here. Now, generally speaking, I have not been using my Play Store to be able to set things up. But at the same time, if you do want to install something from there, you can try. If it doesn't work, chances are it's because of the version doesn't run at all. So you need the oldest version. And in order to do that, I use sites like Pure APK, which allow you to go way back to the very first versions in order to be able to get some things. So today I'm going to be talking about some old versions or certain versions that work on this Blackberry. And that's one way that you're going to be able to get these, including some that aren't available on the Play Store anymore. So going out, we can click now on our Play Store, which there it goes. And if you get a white screen or if it restarts or freezes, don't worry about it. Just try again. In this case, it just is a white screen. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. So I'm going to try again here. Click on it. Here we go. Oh, it actually went straight into it. Typically, there will be a little bar over here. and on that bar, there's a little up and down arrow that I can't describe. That's right over here. It's itty bitty up and down arrow. Click on that, and suddenly, even if it says that it hasn't nothing else, it isn't logging in, you click on that for some reason, suddenly you'll see it'll bring up your account, and then next thing you know, you'll be able to get into this area. And so now I can actually look up some different apps. For the most part, it'll show me apps that actually will work on my device. There's also an Amazon app that's on here that'll let you look up different apps that they have that are actually for this device. You can try in there for some different ones that you'd like, but as you can see, we don't have a lot of choices. So is it worth it? The only reason why we did this was so that I could get certain apps to work, like Fallout Shelter. As you can see, in the past it's worked, but if I click it right now, the thing you might run into is, looks like it's starting, but wait for it. Yeah. So in a second here, it's going to say, it says download failed because the resources could not be found. And this is referring to resources related to the OBB and data files that are on this device. And what I found is that if I install these apps onto my Android device and then copy their OBB and data files and paste them into here, that it suddenly starts to work. So that's actually how I got it to work in the past. I can't guarantee it, but in the past, that's what's worked consistently. Moving these apps around is not hard. Just like I showed you how to delete them, I just hold it down, and then I can drag it like this and put it where I want to use it. So, I want mostly that first page to have the apps that I'm planning on using. So in the meantime, I'm just going to drag these out and into either a folder or into a different area. Now it's up to you what you want to put on this. I'm going to show you some of the apps that I use and why I use them. I do keep some of the apps that it came with, like the maps, pictures, music, videos, because they work very well with it. Now, settings wise, if you are planning on setting up your Pip-boy to be able to have the working holotape, or to be able to have a speaker that you're connecting to this Bluetooth, you want to set that up before we start disassembling this thing. So to do that, I'm just going to pull into here, make sure that other things are generally turned off, but I can go into my Bluetooth, for example. I'm going to be using the silo speaker for my build, and as you can see, there it is right there. That is one of my choices that I can set up. Similarly, I'm going to need to connect it to my Wi-Fi SD card, and to do that, not only am I going to need to go into Wi-Fi settings and attach to it, but also I'm going to need to go into this little app right here. We want to download Wi-Fi at SDGF. Now I can get the newest version of that on my Samsung, but problem is what's on the Google Store right now is too new. This is an app that I'm going to need an older version of in order to be able to run it. So I went to APK Pure to download one of the oldest versions, and through trial and error, I found that this version 2.6 was the one that worked best. So that's what I downloaded. And as you can see, it lets you pick the different things that you want to attach to. So do I want to look at pictures, or do I want to look at music or video or other types of things? You can literally save anything to those SD cards, which is part of what I loved about it, including the actual APKs that I want to use. Next, I wanted my Fallout Pip-boy app. Now this is no longer available on the Android store. You will need to go into things like APK Pure to be able to download the actual app. And I'll put the actual name of the app down below so you can type that in and find it, and make sure that you include the letters APK. Now this is the app that was actually developed by Bethesda. It has this really cool look to it. This was developed for the special edition of Fallout 4 that came with Pip-boy 3000, and as many people will note, this is the Pip-boy 3000 version. As you can see, for right now I have to go into demo mode until I attach it to the game. There we go. And so, but the cool thing about it is, yeah, it's animated and things. And it does let you go into different stuff. It lets you play the games that you've saved to it, you know, kind of neat. It'll keep your updated stats from Fallout 4. So if you're a Fallout 4 person, great. The thing and setting it up, getting attached to Fallout 4 isn't too hard. The issue is that in this app, and because of BlackBerry, two things will happen. One, it tends to only work with older bands of Wi-Fi. And so with my Wi-Fi router, which has much newer bands to it, it's also combined right now. And so a lot of them have technically a few different bands that are running, but it does all that figuring out on its own. The problem is those are separate networks technically, and so kind of like one of the treadmills I recently bought, it doesn't work with one of those bands. I had actually separated out and then separately attach or intentionally attach to a 2.0. And so similar thing here. So sometimes what the issue is that you're attaching to one and then your device is on another, and so that gets in the way. Another problem that I have had has been related to, again, to the OBB and data files. So again, what I'll do is I will copy across those OBB and data files in order to be able to make it play the games or to attach to my game. But I always hear the complaint, I don't like that. How come you're using that? That isn't the Pip-boy 2000 version. And you're right, the reason why I really like it is because it's animated. I don't have to tell people that it's not just a backlit screen. So I kind of like it that way. But luckily, thanks to James, he hooked me up with an altered version of this Pip-boy or Pip-droid, which I'll let him talk about on another occasion. He kind of tweaked one that was existing, that was developed by a third party that I hope to have attached below. But this version, as you can see, looks a little bit more accurate, right? The sound, the feel of it, and you know, has everything looks the way it should. And one of the cool things about it is I can go into the radio section, and something that he added that I asked him for is I said, look, you know, I really like my clock, but I love it if it was just built into it. I can hear it here on clock, and look at that. It's in military time, but that's okay. It probably would be, right? And so, yeah, and it's running off the clock that's internal. And then also, let's say, oh, well, I don't like the green version. I don't like the green version. This still doesn't look like Fallout 76 to me. Well, what if I want to do the orange version, right? I can switch to that, which clicks save. There it goes, and boom, there you go. Now you got your orange version of the Pip-boy interface. So kind of cool, right? Very cool. I like it a lot. It even has what looks like my different radios here, right? Like Galaxy News Radio and things. And maybe eventually it can actually attach to some of those. Speaking of which, I really like there's a few apps that I really like for radio. There's A-Bomb Radio, for example, is okay. Galaxy News Radio is right here. Those are pretty good. My favorite one is Fallout FM, and I like it for a couple reasons here. One reason is that, oh, by the way, there is a setting I haven't mentioned here. So go into settings here. Right, and then I'm going to go into not display like you'd think it would be. I think it's under accessibility. Accessibility. There we go. Magnify mode is something I have turned on right now, and that allows me to literally spread things out or zoom out, zoom in, which at times has been important for putting it into my Pip-boy or making it look pretty good, making certain apps look better. So that is why, if you notice, sometimes it opens a little bit funny. It's because I have it currently on magnify mode. So I can also stretch this out, for example, and then have that whole thing fill up the Pip-boy screen. And I can click on one of these, and it starts playing the music from those radios. So, at any rate, for any radio channel I want, and then it also has an escape button, which then allows me to keep that open while I open up another app, so I can have that with the music running while I'm also running my Pip-boy app. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. So if you want the music to be playing while you have the other app open and to be able to get out and get in pretty easily, I love the way that she laid out that app. I like this one a lot too. This is Pip-boy Weather. Now the downside to it is that I'm guessing was developed by somebody in Europe or something like that. Everything's in Celsius, and so if you don't know how to kind of translate, you just click that button right there and it'll flip it over. I can also pick any type of town that I want. So right now it's set for Las Vegas because I'm going there pretty soon. But I can select other towns or create another town. I can type in whatever town I want here. So I think that's pretty fun. There's multiple hacker terminal apps that help you either to crack, and basically are cheats for the game, mostly for Fallout 4, I believe. But they are kind of cool. So if you want to be able to have a little hacker terminal set up on your Pip-boy, look at that. It works just like it does in the games. There's several of these, but the ones that I have currently on mine are Fallout Terminal, Hacker Terminal. I think there's also one called Fallout Hacker or something like that. I don't have that one on here right now. And this is really reliant on the site staying active. So it allows you to be able to communicate with, it's essentially a forum, lets you be able to text and communicate with different people that are really into Fallout, also to get, current news, stuff like that. It's pretty good. I have had variable activity with it lately, so I don't know if it's actually still working, but it has been in the past, and I really enjoyed that one. Similarly, if you're wanting to be able to chat, Fallout Chat is great. Not just for chatting, but also it is the best keyboard. Believe it or not, the best keyboard for my Blackberry, because when I remove that keyboard, there isn't a great alternative keyboard. You'll download one and you'll find out that all the keyboards are just for these numbers and things. There's things that just pop up in general. There's not really a good backup keyboard for the Blackberry. But let's say that I want to go in here and I want to write a text or something. I can actually create a text, for example, that uses different Fallout things. Here, put this Pip-boy in there, and maybe some green poop because of course it's radioactive. Some Nuka-Cola, whatever. At any rate, then I can type. Right, has good typing ability, although it's all caps. And then it'll let me export those or copy it to be able to use for pasting into something else. So if I need to paste in something, sometimes even my passwords, I could actually be able to pull off being able to use that to do it. One of the things that actually Chris Bernardo brought up when he watched my video that he said is exactly what they were originally going to do for their Pip-boy for have a Geiger counter. This is Geiger Counter Pro. There's several versions of this. This is one of the versions. I think I've shown all the versions so far before now. Oh, look at that. It's already popping. I don't know why. Oh, I do. It's because it's my microphone. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, that's why. But basically, it's using that EMF reader that's inside of the device to pick up different frequencies. So it says it's a Geiger counter, but really what it's measuring is electromagnetic energy. You probably saw me in the first video demonstrate it. The one that I that I used in the last episode looks a little bit more like an actual Geiger counter. Again, I used older versions of this app in order to be able to get it to work. So these are some general apps and things that we would use to make this thing work. Next, I'm going to power this down. I'm going to hold down this button right here. I'm going to power it down, just like so. And now I'm ready to take it apart. If you're going to take it apart. Now remember, Esso Breger that we showed in my first episode came up with a clever way to be able to insert it. James, that's on our channel, he decided to go that route. He didn't want to destroy the Pip-boy and he wanted to retain this piece down here. The only downside to it is it will take away your ability to have that holotape work. It gets rid of the holotape section. That's kind of the compromise that you make, but it's so cool the way that they made that work, and when they slide it in and out, it sounds so good. So if you want to go with his route, I actually have links to his videos to be able to do it the way that he did it. So step one, I'm gonna remove this part right here. Now you can see that I have a couple of screws here, one here and one here. That'll allow me now to pull off the back. Again, we're gonna pull this part off, put it over there. Next, I need to be able to detach this. Now, my screws on this one appear to already be missing. But generally speaking, I've been able to use a standard screwdriver, just a little one. Some might have connectors that are more like this, a star one right here, in which case you're gonna need like an iFixit kit or something like that to be able to get this back off. But once when we got those detached, those screws detached, which hold this on, I can just pull that off, put that over there. Don't throw it too far. I will be keeping this part because this needs to be used later on for being able to keep everything safe. So we definitely still need that. Underneath this shield, you can see I've got my battery connector and things. The most important thing that I want to unscrew and disconnect the battery. And then once when I've done that, I can unplug this. This is my actual screen. And so we're just gonna pop that off. After removing those screws, I'm able to pull this part off. And then you can see this is where my keyboard connects right here. Now, this next part is really important. Right here, there's a little clip. We're gonna unclip that. That is for my keyboard, which now I should be able to fairly just push on it to the most part. And it will slide out like so. And that way I can still connect to it later if I have to. And I've had to do this a couple times now. So hold on tight to this and don't let that ribbon get messed up. So now we've got all of this pretty well exposed. So I'm gonna snip along here and along here so that I can disconnect this metal piece without damaging anything right here. It looks like the plastic's attached to it, but it's not. See, it's all disconnected right there. And so, any rate, so I can actually bend this, and you will see that there are parts that are already scored, and I can just bend that and break it off, and it won't do anything to that motherboard. But I still want to keep this plastic and some of this because I'm going to be using this piece later on. So keep that nice. And we'll just use some scissors now to kind of get rid of some of this metal and plastic. Look at that. So now I can still use this as a support later on for my USB. So I'm going to actually keep that just the way it is. And then this gives me the remainder of what I'm needing. Now we can talk about screens. Now this is what my actual working screen looks like. It also has this plastic part on it, which I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna keep this for the moment, just to keep things nice. But at any rate, I bought this screen for, I think I bought two for $20. And so that's pretty good. The problem is I don't like the ones that have this backing on it. I've showed you before that there are several that you can get which have no backing. And the benefit is that then this whole cable is free. But since we have this one, well, what do? Well, I just need to pop this screen off of there. So with the blade, I'm going along and getting between that screen and the plastic here. Now be careful because I do have this ribbon is what I'm trying to protect. All right, you can see inside there now, right? I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go the rest of the way now. I've removed my ribbon and good. Ta-da! There it is, baby. Now this stuff is called Kapton tape. You can purchase it online. It is pretty great. It prevents when there's hot electronics. It prevents a lot of fires and electrical stuff. It's better than just electrical tape, although I'm also going to use electrical tape. What I did is I took this, I'm taking this and a bunch of it, and I'm going to wrap it around this. I'm going to cover it up as best I can, and I'm going to follow that with some electric tape. And so now I can kind of bend that around because I'm going to need it to bend and go somewhat flat without crimping too much. That the worst thing about these stupid ribbon cables is that they get ruined when you tear them or you or you bend them too much, right? So this will give it strength for me to actually really do quite a bit with it. It's amazing how much I was able to bend that. And when we attach it, which it needs to be attached this direction. So I need to be able to stick this on just this direction, which is so hard because you won't have a lot of room. I know, just like that. And I'd recommend taping that down to be able to keep it on. Before we'll be able to turn it on, you'll have to reconnect that power ribbon. Now technically that's enough to make this work, but at the same time, again, we kept some extra pieces to be able to protect it a little bit more, and that's exactly what I did. You'll see that I actually took that plastic piece and I cut it in such a way that it can give me a little bit more structure and support on it. And then I also put a lot of Kapton tape on some of these exposed connectors, and then also used some electrical tape to be able to tie the whole thing together. On the screen, I used really the best way to look it up is Magnifying Sheet. If you look it up as anything else, including what most people think that it actually is, you're likely to also get thicker plastic sheets that kind of look the same, but they aren't thin enough. Additionally, because they really do, they need to be super, super thin. And additionally, you might run into some that are actually glass, which also would not be helpful. So I want one of these sheets. I'm going to cut to about the size of my Pip-boy window over here. After using some of those alterations, I can again connect my screen where it belongs, and then pushing my power button, it works pretty great. And that's it. Our BlackBerry is now prepared fully to be able to insert into our Pip-boy. However, we now have to alter parts of the Pip-boy and prepare it to be painted and assembled. So stay tuned for next time. Like, subscribe, comment below, and be sure to check out some of our other videos. This has been your Geek Fix.